second we three kings. time. Yeah. I'll play one more. Song I was going Snow Angels. This is Blue Charles O'Connor. I don't know if you guys, that was the end of my program. One more. Do we have time for one more? Do one more.
Yeah, Kim, we have 2 minutes. If you can fill that, it would be great.
Okie doke. We'll fill it up with "Oh Come All Ye Faithful."
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kim. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Early
again.
holiday cheer.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was really enjoyable. We actually got to hear it in the auditorium. That was really great.
I don't know if you recognized it came upon a midnight clear.
Excellent. It's a precursor for the season.
Thought it was the perfect choice for a Stargazers Club.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I think it's time for us to start our meeting. Welcome, everybody. Actually, I should stand up. Welcome, everybody, to the November meeting of Orange County Astronomers. I hope you all can hear me here. Raise your... Okay. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty. Are you able to hear me now? Okay, cool. Okay, with that little adjustment, again, welcome. This is the November meeting of Orange County Astronomers. It also is the last night for nominations for the upcoming board elections. If you want to run, get your information to Alan Smallbone, who's over here. It's Alan at ocastronomers.org is where you can send it. And if you get that in by midnight tonight, he can put you on the ballot. And as I've mentioned in other occasions, we are on the board. We are a fun group to hang out with, and we look forward to having some new faces at some point. Actually, we already are greeting a couple of new faces. One of them you're going to be talking to or hearing from tonight, which is Liam Kennedy, who was actually president my first year on the board. So it's great to have him back in the club again, and we're looking forward to his talk tonight. I can't think of anything else of real vital importance to impart to you, so I think I'm going to turn this over to our announcement crew, who I see standing by. So Kyle, take it away.
Hello. All right, here we go. So welcome new members. If you're there in person, your name badge either in this month or one of the coming months will be on the whiteboard there. If you're attending online, in a couple months, those name badges will be mailed to you. Remember, for those in person, coffee, donuts, and water are available for purchase up top by the library entrance. Star parties. There'll be an ANSA Star Party on November 15th and November 22nd. Astrophysics will be meeting on November 21st at 7 o'clock at Orange Coast College. Astroimaging will be meeting on November 14th at Orange Coast College. The beginners class will be November 7th online. That was tonight, I think. And then the board meeting will be November 9th, Sunday at 10:30 in the morning online. All that information will be on the website. If you go to the website and click calendar, you should find everything there. On the calendar tab right there. For the Adopt Scope program, all that information, you can see how to get to it on the website. You can find a sample adoption agreement and scope inventory and learn more about the program if that's something that interests you. It's a great way to try out a telescope before you buy. And some of these you can adopt if you like it. So our outreach events coordinator is Martin Christensen. You can contact him there at outreach@ocastronomers.org. And please reach out to him if you can help with any of these upcoming outreach events. They're always a fun time, so if you can come out, bring your telescope and show people the night sky, we'd love to have your help. Dave Fisher is the editor of the Serious Astronomer. If you have any items of interest that you would like to have considered for publication in the newsletter, please send Dave that information and he'll review it. Things we look for are articles, images, trip reports, club news, etc. Friendly reminder to all those using the ANSA house to make sure the ANSA house is locked and windows are closed and secure before leaving, and make sure you close the gate to the site just to ensure the site stays secure. Additionally, please help with weed clearing. Keep if you have a pad out there, please keep it clear of weeds, and if you can help out any of the common areas, that's much appreciated to help keep the site safe and prevent fires. Barbara mentioned the elections, so here's more information about it. The nomination period closes at the end of the meeting tonight. The qualifications are there below, so if you're interested in running, for any of the positions, please see Alan before the end of the meeting. And the elections will be coming up in January. Detailed information will be sent out soon on the website and in the December issue of the Serious Astronomer. Online voting will continue to be an option, and that will get mailed. That information will be emailed out to everyone shortly.
Just one clarification. Actually, the voting will be in December and end with the January general meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. The next general meeting will be December 12th, and I will turn it over to John Garrett for the What's Up presentation. Thank you.
Or should I sit?
Do you need to see the screen?
Yeah, I'll need to see the screen either from here or,
Telling them.
oh, okay. So how do I operate it here? Oh, sure, sorry.
Yeah, this can be pushed back so that you actually can see your face.
They're seeing me through that computer. Okay,
Yeah, he changed the camera to this.
okay, I'll try to do what works out best for everyone. Yes, the microphone's on. Okay, I have the pointer, all right. Okay, thanks for inviting me out to do the What's Up. I was able to get a few personal observations done in October, which I'm going to use as the basis of what I'm going to share tonight. And okay, and also this one isn't doing what I thought it would do. Oh, yeah, he's about to turn on the device I was trying to use. I'll just use the keyboard. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so in fact, I'll sit down if I'm going to use the keyboard. All right. Sorry for all this indecisiveness. Hold the microphone closer to me. Okay. Getting a little on the job coaching here. Never hurts. Anyway, so what's up for November? We have a meteor shower coming up, the Leonids, and that's going to peak the night of the 17th. So the night of the 17th, morning of the 18th would be a good time to watch. A good time because we have a thin crescent moon that day. A lot of the meteor showers that I've wanted to see this past year seem to have coincided with a full moon. And so this one is the moon is going to be out of the way. The only catch is that it's predicted about 15 meteors per hour, which really isn't a lot. But again, it's fun to be out. So wouldn't hurt, depending, 15 meteors an hour is enough to get me up in the morning to try to capture some of these. The last time I actually watched Leonids was about over 20 years ago and took these with slide film back in 2000. And so it was very easy to know where to point the camera because it was a cloudy night. And so I just took wherever the hole was in the sky and was able to catch some. One of the things I noticed from the time is that fewer satellites and darker skies, at least where I was photographing this one. And here's another possible Leonid meteor, though I've begun to question them later in life, that I've got two that look like they're in the same line. And it starts to make me think that those were actually satellites that I photographed 20 some years ago. The following year, the Leonids landed on a full moon. And so this was taken under full moon skies, but I was able to capture 3 Leonids in a 5-minute exposure that then trace back to the approximate radiant of the Leonid meteor shower. And there's Leo, not too different from how Leo might appear in the morning, but Leo would be tilted a little more this way in the morning sky. And I put that in there so you can see about where the radiant of the Leonid meteor shower is. And so the meteor should radiate about from the middle of the sickle of the shape of Leo. And from meteors to some of the objects that cause those meteors. This was actually taken by one of your club members, and the information for it is behind the little user interface buttons on the top. Don Weisbrod took this with his C-Star 30, and he says, I think it took about 5 minutes of exposure time on it. And this was kind of a nice thing to have turn out because Don contacted me after the last What's Up I did here in September, saying he's interested in getting out to Joshua Tree for their Night Sky Festival, which I was pitching. And so he went out there, stayed at Joshua Tree Lake campsite. And the night before the Dark Sky Festival, he says he got this picture of the comet. So this is Comet Lemon that's been hanging very low in the sky. It was in the northwest when he took this picture, and it has moved to the northwest. It's moved to more west in the time that has passed. And here's a picture I took on the 25th of the. In fact, I think I put all my labels on the top this time. I was trying to not be blocked. Oh, it's on that screen. I just think that's really a great irony that I thought I had moved. Oh, okay, great. That's great. Okay. Anyway, so at the Joshua Tree Dark Sky Festival, it was lightly attended because the park had closed because of the government shutdown. So we had fewer astronomers sharing telescopes, and we had a slightly depressed, less of a crowd, but it was still a very nice night. It was a little bit cloudy, but I was able to take a few pictures in between people looking through the telescopes. And so this is a picture I took on the 25th, looking toward the northwest, and you can see very low is the comet Lemon. This was taken with a 24 millimeter lens, and there's Comet Lemon in the picture. And here's Corona Borealis. So if you look that direction in the sky, you'll be seeing the Corona Borealis very close to setting and disappearing for the year. And that had put the Comet Lemon in the constellation Serpens. And the serpent bearer, Ophiuchus, is some of the stars are here in the picture. And then Hercules above it. Hercules was still high enough that if you want to see M13, it still shows up. It's up there. I have it marked near the top. And in this picture, by 11:3, the comet had moved to about that position where I've drawn it in this picture. So the next picture I don't have a fresh picture of Ophiuchus. I have one that I took many years ago. So I've modified it for the time of the year by drawing the scenery over it. And here's where the comet was in the previous pictures. But over the next week, Comet Lemon should be traveling about this way. So tonight, the 7th, you can see about where it is in Ophiuchus. And this weekend, it'll still be lingering in there, so it'd be a good place to look for it to try to get it. It also has just passed some of these Messier objects, so if you don't find the comet, it never hurts to look at these for the last time for the year. And I was actually looking for a different comet a couple of weeks ago to see whether it would show up in my backyard from my balcony, where I have a little window between my tree and my neighbor's house. And so I was using my 85 millimeter lens thinking, okay, is Comet Swan visible from my backyard? And I thought I found it, and I readjusted the camera to center it, and then took a longer exposure, and then suddenly realized I had two objects in it. So I guess this is an old problem for comet hunters. If only someone had created a catalog of these objects to not get confused by. But instead of the Comet Swan, I was photographing M10 and 12. But I'm using this picture to show about where the Comet Lemon should be in relation to these two objects tonight. I have it marked in the lower left corner, about where the crosshairs intersect. That's about where you'd look now. And anyway, here's probably the only picture I got so far. The comet has been low, so it's in a lot of twilight. It's in a lot of haze. But of course, with the right location, other people are able to get those comets. Now, if this comet is called Comet Lemon, I ask you, what should this one be called? The answer is Comet Lyman, but it's not. This is Comet Swan. It's a lot greener, at least in my pictures. It shows up as greener. But this comet is also visible, and I'll show you about where it is. Well, this picture I took was like a 45-second exposure at an ISO 800, so it's a faint comet. It's below visual magnitude, so I think it's around 8 or 9 magnitude. I'm not sure exactly what it is now, but it takes a good half minute to bring it out in a photograph. So here is a picture I took on the Joshua Tree Dark Sky Festival. And so I took it of Saturn, wanted a picture of Saturn. And so if you look at Saturn, and by the way, Saturn is showing edge on with the rings, which seems like it would be a disappointment, but actually it isn't. It's kind of cool. And so definitely look at Saturn while you see it very edge on. But the comet is going to be passing near there. And so here's the constellations Pisces, and the circlet is probably the only part of Pisces that I ever look at in the sky and recognize. Otherwise, I'm kind of a Pisces denier. It's kind of a faint constellation. And then Aquarius over here. And Cetus the whale is down below there. And I always get intrigued when I look through the star charts and I'm labeling the stars that I see in these pictures I take. Every now and then there's a lot of the ones where you have multiple stars given the same designation. So there's 4 stars named Phi Cetus in this one, and that I'd marked those there. I thought, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, Comet Swan is going to be passing this way. So the 8th, it's going to be just, well, like where you see right there, just to the side of the circlet. And by the 15th, it should be entering the Pisces circlet of stars. So that's where you can look for it. If you can see Saturn, if you got a view of Saturn, you might as well take your scope and see if you can find Comet Swan. And here's a picture of Comet Swan next to M8. So this just gives you an idea of the comparable brightness. Many of us have seen M8. And so this gives you an idea about how bright it was at least a couple weeks ago. And here's a picture I used that I'm reusing. I used this back in September as one of the only pictures I have of Venus that's convenient. And there's a 3rd comet that's going to be passing in this direction. And so by now, Venus is probably much lower, well, certainly much lower in the sky, but probably about where I've drawn it there. And so Venus is going to get quickly out of our way soon, but in its place is going to be the interstellar comet, 3I Atlas. And so that's been a lot of fun because it's really fun to see how many people out there in the world believe scientists when they say this comet is of extrasolar origin. But then when you tell them that it's just a comet, they're kind of doubtful, and those same people say, well, it's just a comet. But that interstellar comet is right here, about right there where my picture of Venus was. Right now. That'll be like in the morning. And then over the next few days, it's going to rise higher and higher. And by the time the crescent moon shows up, it's going to be very close to there. So it's faint. And I looked at online saying something was saying it's like 9th to 10th magnitude now. So it seems possible to get a good picture, or at least a picture of it with amateur equipment. So that's one of the projects I look for trying to find. And of course, there's no end of online speculation about this particular comet, but I do remind people that this is Comet 3I. We had 1I, we had 2I, we're going to have 4I, we're going to have 5I. We're going to see a lot of these things. And of course, some people seem to believe that only aliens piloting a spaceship would be smart enough to disguise their ship as a incoming comet. So it's hard to argue with that. Anyway, let's go look a few things from the deep sky. There's from this picture I took of, let's see where, oh yeah, this is a picture of Saturn from that same night, Joshua Tree Night Sky Festival. And so very near Saturn is a constellation Pisces Austrinus, and Fomalhaut is one of the brighter stars that you'll see in the sky in that area. And Aquarius is over here, a bunch of faint stars that are hard to see with the naked eye, but they do show up in my pictures. And over here, Cetus the whale, a personal favorite constellation, because if you trace the whole constellation, it really does look like a whale. And a constellation Sculptor here, but there's a little group of NGC objects near Cetus and in Sculptor that are my current projects to look at. So these might be ones that you might want to hunt down to look at visually, or definitely to try to photograph them. One of my favorites is this one, NGC 246. That's one of the upper ones in there. I've marked with green. Planetary nebula, I've marked with green. Other objects, I just marked with orange. And so this was taken with my 3-inch refractor, I think from my backyard. And here it is where I tried to do an early effort to try to process it, to try to take a stacked picture. And I think I have all the pieces to it, but it shows a lot of promise as an interesting object to try to get an image of. And then here's a NGC 247, a nice little ghostly galaxy in that area. Also taken with my 3-inch refractor. And then this was taken by a friend in my astronomy club, the Temecula Valley Astronomers. And so he's put a lot of work in this. And here's an example of the Galaxy NGC 253. My own efforts to get 253 are a lot fainter. I've only taken pictures of this one with my 3-inch refractor. But what I like about it is that the image that I was able to get is wide enough that I got another object off to the side. So if you look at the far bottom right, you can see the faint edge of an object there. And that's actually NGC 288, the globular cluster, which now that I've moved to NGC 288, you can see that NGC 253 is up in the corner. So my project now is to see if I can get both of them in the same field of view. I'm certain that I can. I just need to aim it right. I was thinking that if my telescope alignment was just off by a degree, I would have had that already. More pictures just from the night back in late October. So right now, this time of year, Cygnus the Swan is taking a swan dive, a nose dive into the west. And so the bright star at the top is Deneb, the tail of Cygnus the Swan. You might see the wings, a very symmetrical shape of wings next to it, and then a wispy neck right almost in the middle of the photo. And then below that, the constellation Lyra and the bright star Vega, which is behind a cloud. And I'll just give you a little overview. What's in the sky? There's the Cassiopeia. If you look to the northeast, you'll see Cassiopeia rising. And if you look with Cassiopeia rising, Perseus and the Pleiades is not long after that. And that's what you see here. And then if you've got Perseus and Pleiades, right after that, you've got Auriga, the charioteer, rising, which is full of objects to photograph and look at. So it's looks for, the usual night sky is going to be very nice if the weather holds out. But the comets really are a good chance to try to get 3 very unique comets right now. So hope you get out and do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Great presentation. What a beautiful night sky. Thank you. So our speaker tonight is an amateur astronomer and former president of the Orange County Astronomers, who now serves as SpaceTV Director at CEN. He developed ISS-Above project, originally a classroom outreach tool, and later helped launch the SpaceTV-1 camera system aboard the International Space Station via the Bartolomeo platform. From local smart parties to bringing 4K live views of Earth from orbit, he's had quite a journey. Please join me in welcoming our very own Liam Kennedy.
One second. All right. You're not seeing me? Okay. It's coming through. So I may need some direction on how to use the microphone. So if it's not working for you, sort of get my attention. But there we go. Wow. Oh, it is such an honor to be here once again. I've been a presenter here a couple of times. In fact, maybe I should shut the video off because I'm probably, if I move over here, is this better? Anyhow.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Here we go. So yeah. So where I'm coming from in all of this is you'll see the title slide of the presentation here is from OCA school star parties to 4K cameras in space. And that may seem like a stretch, right? What am I talking about? How on earth can that be possible to be an outcome? But here I am. I'm going to take you on a journey from when I first joined the OCA in 1998. I became president. I think it was 2001, 2002. Barbara may have a better understanding of that because I think I traumatized Barbara for the next a couple of decades because I volunteered you to be president, invited you to be. And just want to acknowledge you again while I've got the microphone here, that your work at your stewardship on the club is just exceptional. And I'm so honored now to be now a board member again, invited by Doug Millar to jump in there. So let me get on from here, and let me see if my remote actually works here. Should do. Something's working. It's vaguely working. Maybe not. All right. So I think what it is. Here we go. So yeah, so I made a rather stark idea there that by being involved in the public outreach at schools with the OCA in the early 2000s, all the way through to the end of that decade, that was really the seminal creation point of me getting involved with having a 4K external camera platform on the International Space Station. And I'll explain why that happened. So is there anyone else here who does outreach or has done outreach in the past? Right. So, you know, I came as a new amateur astronomer in 1998. I think that was when Hale-Bopp was around, and through getting interested in that, I was invited by neighbors to go check out the Orange County Astronomers. And that's how I joined the OCA. And going out to star parties at ANZA, what really cemented my connection with the heavens through stars, through all of the outreach that we do. And then I got myself a 10-inch LX200, and that was my telescope of choice to bring to the wonderful thing, which are the public star parties. Now, does everyone remember? So I haven't really done an intro about the International Space Station because I'm thinking everyone here knows what the ISS is, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time there. But here is the thing. For those of you in the room, I'm so sorry for those of you who are remote, but I have a table set up down the bottom here, and that's where I've got a lot of my paraphernalia related to what I'm about to tell you. And there's a sign on there that says it's the 25th anniversary of human beings in space on the space station. That happened November the 7th, so Sunday. That was November the 2nd. There we go. November the 2nd. Thank you. That was my wife. If any of you wanted to know, she helps me by correcting me very helpfully. So that happened. So 25 years from now, back in time, was 2000. So I'm curious, for those of you that were with me, so how many people? I know, Dawn, we've done outreaches together. We've all been doing outreaches together at this time. And I want to tell you that from that point on, all my work to do public outreach was really created from the foundation of the generosity that is provided to the public from members of the OCA. So that's really what I've taken with me from all of this. But so, and I'm not sure if you can all remember this, so I'm going to pause a little bit on this next slide. Yes. No, I see this. So it must sound like I'm not talking about what's on the screen here. So this is, again, I'm just really underlining the outreach nature of what was going on here at Star Parties. So what I have here, everyone recognize the handsome dude in the top left of the screen there, Jim Benet. Jim was at that time, the outreach coordinator. So I wanted to give Jim all recognition for his incredible dedication to that program at that time. And then I've got various other images on here. But here is where I want to connect this with the ISS. This was the early days of the International Space Station being assembled in space. Sure. Oh, we got to get rid of that. That's what is going on. Okay. So I just minimize it. Go. That was probably what you were talking about, right? Yes, there was still something is on the bottom. Yeah, no. This is right. There we go. I don't know what that is referring to, but let me see if I can see anything that is hanging around on any of the. Has it gone away? No, it's still there. That is usually because there is a window lying over the top, but it doesn't look like there is anything. Yeah, so let me see what else I've got here. Lower rank, this one here. Okay, something to do with, no, that's DMV login. Anyone want to have my DMV login? All right, I know what, I'll just shut down every window that I can. So bear with me. We'll get back to the regular operations any moment now. Tell me if you suddenly see it disappear. Let me shut that down. Yeah. Could be a bug with, oh, command prompt. Yeah, have a look at some of my coding. No. Ah. It's still there, right? Yeah. Oh, so which one do you think it is? Oh, okay. Uh-huh. So maybe if I stop sharing and then start over again. So let me see if there's anything here that I can shut down. Go back to this. Ooh, okay. Current slide. Ah, maybe it's my notifications. Ah, that is probably, yeah, that's right. So I've got to get back to wherever the Zoom is, right there. All right. Let us, no, it is still there. All right. Okay. So, and I use Zoom and Teams, I promise, a gajillion times during the week. So this is an unusual problem there. We'll call it a bug. So I'll describe everything
Leon,
that maybe, yeah.
sometimes that happens when you share and click the optimize for video sharing item. Would you like try it without unchecking the optimize for video?
Oh,
usually the video plays well.
All right. So I don't think that I selected anything. Share and content only. I don't see an optimize for video is not selected.
It's not selected. Okay, maybe
it's
turn it on then. Let's see.
Okay. That usually reduces the resolution, but we'll see if that is the case. All right.
No, it's not. Okay.
Nope. All right. All right. It was worthy of the discovery of what might be causing that. I'm so sorry. All right, here we go. Share. This is where transfer it to your laptop and run it from there. But anyway, maybe instead, if I share the actual, not the whole screen, has that helped? No, it's still there. So it is something that is in PowerPoint that's doing this. Okay. All right. So here we are, back to this this astounding moment in time in the early 2000s. Was the early days of the ISS assembly. But what that meant is at many of the outreach events, there were, I would call them in many cases, accidental visible passes of the International Space Station, sometimes with a shuttle thrown in for good measure. So we would be out there and we would be showing our telescopes to schools, to students, to their parents. And then what would appear is the International Space Station. And very few people knew that that was what was going on at that time. And yet, what is absolutely clear through all of this is that the public were absolutely inspired by NASA and astronauts, but somehow there was something going on regarding how the public really got connected with the story of astronauts in space. And it was clear really from that point through the whole decade. So always a great hit to the public. And all right, so what I call it, this is the awareness gap. So we would have people looking up. We would see the International Space Station passing by. This is a little set of images that I took of one particular pass. You know, there we had a great view of Mars and Saturn. So what was missing for me was the public being brought along on this magnificent human achievement. And I was someone who knew that the International Space Station didn't just pass by for visible passes. You know, who here has seen the International Space Station with your own eyes out there in the sky? So most everyone. And most of the apps that are out there are focused around informing you when you can go outside and see it. But for me, the bottom line story with what was going on is that I wanted the public to appreciate that those astronauts on that dot are passing them by in the middle of the day, 5 to 8 times every single day. That's how frequently that is going on. And to me, this is such an astounding fact. I wanted to find a way to make that more accessible to the world as a mere fact. Now, what I'm showing you here on the right side of the screen, there is a Kickstarter project that I backed in 2011. It was called ISS Notify. And this was a little tiny microcontroller gizmo that was going to light up whenever the space station was above. That was in 2011. And it went, unfortunately, the way that a number of Kickstarters went, where in this case, if you can read the detail there, 292 backers pledged, I think it was, is that $16,000? And unfortunately, nothing was ever delivered. So I was waiting for this cool little gizmo, and it never arrived. So the developer of this did a great job on the initial work, but he just couldn't get it through to the final set of deliverable products. It can happen with a Kickstarter. So in 2013, I decided, rather than just being upset that that wasn't around, I decided to see what I could do to build my own thing. And this is where you can see I've got here a couple of early prototypes of the device. This is using a Raspberry Pi computer, which is a $35 base board. And then I wrote the software. I figured out that me, not very good at math person, could actually figure out how to calculate the orbit of the space station and when it was passing by. But my actual reason for doing this was, yes, it would be a cool gizmo, but I wanted to be a cool grandpa to our then 3-year-old grandson. His name is Owen. Owen today is a freshman in high school. But this is what I initially put together. And what I wanted to share with you is a little bit of the story of how that allowed me to go from there through the next phases of development. So I did this Kickstarter, but I did it as what I would call an experiment. That was, if no one actually went ahead and purchased it, it would still be just fine, because I still created something that I was proud of as a cool grandpa. But what you're seeing here is I was persuaded to take my little initial prototypes down to something called a Maker Faire. This was in San Diego in 2013. No, it was December of 2013, just before we went back to the UK for a Christmas in the UK with our family over there and grandkids over there too. And what you're seeing here is my table where I was showing all of this. I was mobbed by hundreds of people who were attending in a good way. This was the good kind of mobbing where they were truly inspired by what was going on. And so shortly after this, I think the next couple of days, we hopped on a plane and I went to England. And then while I was there, I had a website where info on this was, and suddenly I had some stats that, oh my gosh, I've gone viral. I don't think we even called it viral then. But suddenly my website was just getting so many hits, and I was getting contact info from people. And it was because this organization called Hackaday had created a little article about it. And thank you, Hackaday. What that switched over to, and Anna hasn't seen this photo. So my Kickstarter was successful. Now remember the other one, ISS Notify, we didn't get anything for 2 years. The Kickstarter was in January through February. We shipped everything in April and May. And this is, I dragged Anna into the QA, and I think you wrote a whole load of the materials that are in it. And this is Anna on the dining room table, doing all of the packing and shipping of all of these devices. So my Kickstarter, I think there were, what is that? I can't quite read that. Like 200 official backers of that. Which was a good number to get. So those are all out there, and they are working really well as a beacon of when the astronauts were above. To me, it was all about having people feel closer at that time to the only people in space. There's now another space station where there are people in space. But at that time, this was the only place human beings were living off the Earth. So that was working really great. But then NASA did an astounding thing. April 30th of 2014, they released the first ever live streaming Earth views from something called HDEV, the High Definition Earth Viewing Experiment. And I'm showing you one of the views that it had here. They had really 3 camera views, a forward, a down, and a reverse view. And it was really an astounding capability. Now, I'd already shipped all of these devices out there, but I discovered that I could reprogram them all, and I could display NASA's video on all of those devices. And that's what happened next. What I'm showing you on this screen is a set of the information screens that are displayed on this ISS-Above when you plug it into a TV. So it shows you the tracking, the orbit, the crew. It lets you know when the next pass is, and also when the next visible pass is. and then it shows the live video feed from NASA. And I did a sort of a funky thing here. Does everyone recognize the guy on the right who isn't me? Right, Bill Nye. Exactly. He is actually handing me a $5 Canadian bill there. You might wonder what that's about. It's because it has Chris Hadfield on the back of it, or someone representative of Chris Hadfield, the famous Canadian astronaut. But behind him, and there's a bigger image on the left, is what I snuck into the conference room of the Planetary Society in Pasadena. I did a lot. We'd moved to Pasadena at that point, and I did a lot of volunteer outreach with the Planetary Society. I'd met Bill many times, and I asked the COO, Jennifer, if I could just put the ISS-Above in the corner. And she said, yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, just put it there. But this is what happened. You see what I've got there is the 3-orbit meeting. Now, remember, I've got this really bright LED that lights up every time the space station's above. Well, I went in to see to the Planetary Society, and Bill was just finishing up an all-day meeting. Neil deGrasse Tyson was there, a whole bunch of other folks in the space comms world. And Bill came out to me and said, Liam, we just had a 3-orbit meeting. And he sort of sounded a bit sort of upset about that. So I jumped to the conclusion that my having an LED lighting up during the meeting was not a helpful thing to be going on. So I sort of said, "Oh, yeah, that must have been a long meeting. I'm sorry about that." He said, "No, I want to get one." So I handed him an ISS-Above, and then he handed me his Amex and said, "No, I want to support you." So he purchased the ISS-Above then, and since then he's been buying them from me quite a bit. He tends to buy them for people he loves, especially the version that Anna created, which was a Valentine's Day ISS-Above. True story. He's now married to that person. So this is what Bill said about it. This was his quote in an article in the Wall Street Journal, and so I'll read it, even though you can read it. This gizmo called ISS-Above that tells you when the International Space Station is overhead, it's linked to the cameras aboard the ISS, so you can see Earth from space. I do it all day. I leave it on more than is reasonable. It's just a beautiful thing. So what Bill is really, encompassing in all of that is that NASA's view, like I've switched to another, so I'll leave that one on there and explain it in a minute. So the views that were coming from NASA's video were so inspiring that it really did make a difference with how he was seeing people would view the Earth from space. And he's continued to have that interest in this all along. But this next story is really the next step on me getting a camera on the space station. So we've got NASA's camera. Now, I come from a professional video background, and the NASA video feed is low quality high def. It's, for those that are in the know here, it's 720p. So relatively low quality. And so with that in mind, we'll step over that for now. But what happened was, so remember, this is now Bill has shared how much he likes it. What happened was, without me doing anything about it, I had the public affairs office at Johnson Space Center reach out to me and say, "Hey, we think you've done a cool thing." I got invited to what's called the NASA Social for the ISS one-year mission briefing, and this was when Scott Kelly, the only NASA twin astronaut with his brother Mark Kelly, went up to the space station for what was called the one-year mission. And on the left photo, you'll see there are 4 people there. One person there didn't get to go to space. The other 3 did. Scott Kelly was on the far left. He was on the one-year mission, and Mikhail Kornienko is on the far right. And the Russians are doing what they do best, which is not smile for the camera. But I will tell you, they are the coolest dudes. So I got to spend time with all of them. Gennady Podolka is the other Russian astronaut there. There's three of them together because they were getting to the space station on a Soyuz spacecraft. And Mikhail Kornienko and Scott Kelly were going to be staying up there for a whole year on purpose this time. So you may have heard of some others that almost got to 1 year that wasn't on purpose, but we'll go through that. So at that meeting at Johnson Space Center, I was introduced to the creator, what's called the co-principal investigator of HDEV. Remember, HDEV is that amazing camera system that NASA had up on the space station. And Carlos invited me to present at something called the ISS R&D conference. This was in 2015. That's my badge on the left. I still have them. And then in the middle is Carlos Fontenot, the ISS imagery manager, who is the co-principal investigator, and then myself. And I had no idea that NASA had engineered it to have my poster right next to NASA's poster, but I was very honored by that. Anna came with me at that time too. It was a really magical thing because, here I am, someone who, got here through doing outreach for the OCA and being inspired to make a difference with students and the public. And here I am now at the ISS R&D conference. And that was really seminal to the next step. You'll see that there is another photo of my best worker helper. So after going to the ISS R&D conference, I was introduced to what's called the ISS National Lab. That's what all this, for those of you who are in the room, at the bottom right of the stage here is where I have really a tablecloth from it says there US National Lab. It is the ISS National Lab. This is the organization that is tasked with improving the utilization of the space station as a research platform. And what they did is they very kindly granted me a grant to ship 100 ISS-Aboves to schools around the country. And not only that, but they funded the creation of some curriculum that teachers could use. And what you're seeing there is all of those devices that you may notice they're a little bit more professionally put together now. And again, I have Anna to blame for that. I think she was so embarrassed with my previous version that she said, "No, I'm going to fix this." So she basically created this wonderful packaging, and also I think you worked with the designer to get the graphics for everything here. But the key thing is, this was now branching out from something that was really a private, personal thing into something that was bigger than I'd ever planned. This is some info on the curriculum. And this is what I started to see very shortly after this was all going out. What I'm showing you on this screen are a number of shares from teachers around the country as far as how they were having their students interact with the curriculum and with the ISS-Above. One of the lesson plans is everyone becomes a human pointer to the space station. So it means they have to learn angles and obviously the compass points, and then understand a little bit more about how a satellite orbit works. And that's what you're seeing there. It's lighting up, showing everything going on there. So that's them doing it. But this was one of my, I would say, proudest moments is when I saw that what was going on in some schools is that some of the students were becoming space station aces. They were becoming the students who knew everything about the space station, and they ended up sharing that knowledge with the lower grades. So here, I think it's a 5th grade student talks with the 3rd graders about the space station. I think whenever students become the teacher, that provides a whole new level of deepness as far as how they are engaged with the topic. And that's what you're seeing is going on there. Lots more stuff in the image on the left. You'll see some very young students here. What I was discovering is there was no age barrier to the ISS-Above. It shouldn't have done because I created it for my 3-year-old grandson, but you can have preschoolers really engaging with the concept of light flashing, astronauts above, light flashing, cool stuff above, or lights flashing, cool grandpa in the case of my grandchildren. But it didn't just stop there. What I'm showing you here is I was invited by NASA to set up a custom ISS-Above, and this is on what's called Gate 2 at Johnson Space Center. The canopy above is now switched on in this lovely purple glow whenever the space station is above, day or night, visible pass or not visible pass. And I was so honored when I was invited to do this because these are the people that run the space station. The astronauts are up there, but the people on the ground are the ones that are doing, a lot of the hard work. And what you're seeing on the left, those are friends that I have that work at Johnson Space Center. They literally called it, this is not me, it's called the Glow Party. So that was a really fun thing. So all of this is all good, except remember the HDEV system was a key part of the ISS-Above. It was what really had people feel connected with the whole NASA program, seeing views of the Earth, especially when they see themselves. But I actually discovered in 2016 that there was a chance that experiment was going to be removed with no replacement. So from that point on, I actually had started my own quest for having that replaced. And this is a very busy slide, but this is showing you, so all of the ISS R&D conferences I presented at. So there's 5 of them there from 2015 through to 2020. And 3 of those topics were on the topic of upgrading the cameras on the space station. So I was now an education partner with the ISS National Lab, and I discovered that this organization was tasked with helping commercialize the space station. I discovered from Carlos Fontanon that NASA was not interested in upgrading, spending our tax dollars to do that. So I went through various approaches to see if I could find a solution to this. In 2019, in July, was when HDEV died. And at that moment, NASA did not have a replacement on the cards. So we went dark for a few months. And they even created a final report. This final report actually features ISS-Above in it. I was very honored to do that. But, okay, I'm sort of just going to jump straight ahead here. So here is me. I'm literally just a dude who wanted to be a cool grandpa, but I felt empowered by the openness of NASA to invite someone like me inside the organization to pursue my own dreams for replacing the cameras. And that is what we've now got. So these were some concepts from a company called Sen. I discovered in 2019, just a few months before HDEV went off air, that they had launched as a hosted camera payload on a communication satellite, and they did the first ever live stream of the Earth in 4K from space. So I'd already chosen where this was going to be. In fact, it's a bit dark down here, but this is a 3D printed model of the space station. So through my ISS R&D conference presentations and being involved in that, I discovered that Airbus is on the space station. Who knew? Boeing's the prime contractor, but there are lots of other organizations involved. But what happened was the Bartolomeo platform was created, which is a shelf on the front of the space station. And I wanted a camera, if I was going to be involved in one, to be there because it was out of the way of any obstructions. In the meantime, remember I said HDEV died. NASA did eventually replace it with a single camera pointed down, which has an obstruction in it. So it was not a fully clear view. So I was still on the hook. I promised the world I was going to come up with something. So now what I want to show you is, so fast forward to in 2019, I reached out to CEN and invited the CEO, Charles Black, to consider creating a payload for the space station. This is that payload. You can see 4 of the 6 cameras, but it really is just a relatively small plate. I also have somewhere around here a model of it, a 3D printed model, but I don't know where I put that. This is me and the whole, and also Charles Black is in there too. On the photo on the left, we were standing beside the VAB, Vertical Assembly Building, and we were there to watch the launch of SpaceTV-1, which is the name of the payload that went to the space station. And that was on March the 30th, 2024. This is all us celebrating. You can see we're pretty relieved. The rocket went up. It didn't explode. On the left is Patrick, who is the communications manager for the ISS National Lab. Next to me on the other side in the center is Charles Black. And then on the other side, that's Michelle Lucas, who is a famous person who does amazing outreach in the space world, does something called Go for Launch. And on the right, that is someone I've temporarily forgotten her name, but she's in the comms department at NASA HQ. So I really just finished with a couple of slides here. I will, if I've got time, I will show you the live video feed. So where can you see this? I forgot to mention, so we are a commercial company. However, the live video feed is free to the public to view on YouTube. You can literally bring it up on your YouTube smart TV now or on any device that you've got. The channel name is CEN. There is actually a QR code down here that you can just scan and it will take you straight to it. What you're seeing behind this slide here is actually a live recording of electrical storms over Cameroon. So it's pretty amazing what we can do. I wanted to finish just to remind you, here is our younger grandson, Owen. At the time, this is when he was probably 6 or something. That was when we were visiting Bill Nye's office, and that's there. And I will finish the formal part of the slide just simply to reference this astounding fact that I mentioned that happened last Sunday, November the 2nd. And I think that is it. But what I wanted to do, if you don't mind, I'm going to reshare my screen because I want to show you the live feed. And I will have it up in just a second here. Share. And I think we still have that little problem there, but let me go over here. So it looks like we have just come to the live feed at the moment of sunrise. So what I'm showing you here is the video feed that is still now coming through to ISS-Above devices all around the world. I forgot to mention there's now over 5,000 of them, and they are in schools, science centers, public homes. They are in astronaut homes. What I didn't think would happen, although it makes perfect sense, is that astronauts like to have them in their homes. And what this represents is to their family is when they are closest to their loved ones, which is the whole reason I wanted to do this, was to have people feel closer to the only human beings in space then. And now, yes, if your loved one is in space, it's even more important that that is the case. So what if I can just hide that a bit. That is maybe. Okay, so what I wanted to do here, we have a 12-hour DVR. So you can just go to, so the channel name is Sen. So if you go to youtube.com/Sen, that's the channel. And /live, if you're doing a URL, it will get you direct to this live video feed. But what I can scroll back and show you some interesting shots throughout the day because we have 12 hours. And what happened earlier today was the space station did a reboost. And so some of these shots are 1811. I think it had finished at that point, but this is so you saw the horizon view for the sunrise. This is the docking cam view pointed at whatever is docked at the forward docking port. And this is showing SpaceX's cargo resupply vehicle called CRS-33, and it has a very special custom rocket thruster thingy in the back that they now use to reboost the space station. That used to only be capable of being done by the Russian segment. So spacecraft on the Russian side would be used to reboost the station, which needs to happen at least once a month. And now we have a fully independent capability of doing this using the SpaceX Dragon. And the cool thing is that our views are shared with NASA. They get them in their mission control room. And other partners get it too, although I can't tell you who the other partner might be. But there's a beautiful SpaceX Dragon there. So you can probably connect the dots. And to explain a little bit about this view, it's funny, John, you mentioned 3i Atlas. So this channel has a chat feature enabled. And I can't tell you how many comments about why are you not showing us 3i Atlas? And we're declared the enemy because we're hiding that. We'd never see it on 25 frames per second video. And obviously the other thing, typically what's missing in this horizon camera view, if you're just looking at it and you're thinking, what isn't there? Well, there's no stars. We've got the same thing that happened with imagery on the moon, where people see the absence of stars in a daylight video shot as meaning that this is CGI. So it's a fun game to play, and I'm up for the game because there's always an opportunity for education. And this, in order to do the reboost, the space station spun around 180 degrees. It takes an hour and a half to do that. So it's pretty slow. But we did get to see some aurora when that happened from our Nadir camera. But now this is actually going backwards from the normal orientation. So if I just, and then because it was going backwards, we got to see a sunset. So I'm going to scoot forward a little bit so you can see a sunset. So you can say you've seen a sunset from the space station. So I wanted to just give you that sort of insight to this. I don't know whether I've convinced you that my being a member of this club is the precious foundation on which these video views are now available. I am 100% clear. If I had, missed the step to become a member and decide to do outreach with the club, this would not have been something that was available to me in my life. So I do want to say thank you to Jim Bonet at the time, but also to the current OCA person. There we go. So yeah, so you don't know what you're creating with this. There's obviously students who are inspired by what you do. In this case, it was an older dude who was inspired by it. I'm clear I would not have been doing this had it not been for this. So my appreciation goes out to you all, and thank you for having me as the presenter tonight. Move it back to live. Are there any questions? Yes. I'm going to give you this.
How formal is that?
Yeah.
So, yes, so in the spirit of NASA, of course, an incredibly scientific organization, when they put the HD cameras on the ISS, they didn't really have a thought of sharing that video with the public. It was purely an experiment. And the experiment was to determine how long will these cameras last? You know, being hit by all kinds of particles and so on. And I don't know what role Liam had in actually persuading them that the public might like to actually see the videos, but fairly quickly that did happen. So I just want to remind you of the fact that they didn't really think of it that way. They thought of it as an experiment for their own private use. So anyway, you can have your microphone.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions? Let me.
There are questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about the commercial aspect of the SEN? Are you selling that to NASA itself?
Yeah. So here we go. No, NASA is not. We are sending money NASA's way. So actually, the way it works with the space station is where you want your payload to go, you have to find what's called the implementation partner who's responsible for that area of the space station. If you're a commercial organization like us, it happened to be Airbus. So technically, we're sending Airbus a bunch of money. But SEN, yes, it's a commercial company. So how does that work with having investors invest in the company and then get a return on investment? And the way it works is it's in its infancy right now. The views will always be free, but you may already have noticed if you've hit the YouTube channel that you are seeing ads every now and again, unless you have yet another monthly subscription called YouTube Premium. So there are ads being displayed. So there is a matter of how that works, and that's just nothing's free, right? So that's the way it works. But at its core, it is free, and especially in an educational use. So the ISS-Aboves, those devices do not receive ads. It sort of bypasses the ad system. So those that are in science centers, in schools, don't see ads either. But eventually, what we're looking to do is, we're looking for this to scale. We've already started doing this. I didn't mention SEN is a UK company. You may notice that that's where Anna and I are from originally, but it's totally coincidental that SEN is a UK company. I just went for the company that was, in the end, committed to what I was committed to, which was free to the public, which is quite an extraordinary proposition to put to investors, that's the way it is. So this is our third mission. I mentioned the first one was the one that got my notice when they were a hosted payload on a communication satellite. Then SEN launched their first private satellite. It was just their own satellite. That was in January of 2022. And that satellite lasted for 2 and a bit years. It end of lifed. The satellite part of it did. Our camera was working perfectly, but the satellite stopped working, and that was the end of last year. And all of that allowed SEN to set itself up as being a proven entity for investors, and that's where we are right now. We have a bunch of astronauts who are our ambassadors and advisor. Chris Hadfield is. Who else? So Nicole Stott, who is the astronaut artist, who was the first astronaut to paint watercolors in space. And then we have Dr. Cyan Proctor, who was one of the first what's called civilian pilot of a SpaceX spacecraft. She went up on Inspiration 4 that was funded by the soon-to-be approved new NASA director by the name of Jared Isaacman. So Jared is from the commercial world as well. Anyhow, I'm not sure, has that answered everything that you had about how we're a commercial company? We do sell the clips to documentary producers. So the BBC has been buying our clips, actually all the way back to our first satellite, and then going forward. Now, if you may have seen some of the clips I've got over here of Hurricane Melissa and previous hurricanes before that. If you watch CBS Evening News, if you've seen video, real-time video, or even a little bit time-lapse, those clips are from us. Was that me? Where is that coming from? No, this is not. That is not causing. I promise that would be a good feature. Yeah. Oh, so those of you who are not in the room, we heard some beeping. I don't know where that was coming from, but my ISS-Above is flashing green. So the ISS-Above has some flashes that happens before a pass. So green means less than 1 hour away. So you're seeing it flashing green every now and again. There's no sound that goes with that, I promise. I don't know what that was that was doing that. So yeah, so what I'm saying is CBS Evening News, they purchase our clips for use on the news. And that's a growing sort of way that our video clips are being monetized. That's the word that we're talking about. So yeah, I am SpaceTV Director. If you go to send.com, all of the clips that you'll see, probably 99.99% of them are ones that I've captured. So I've curated those clips. They go onto the website, into the app. There is an app that you get to. And we are already working on SpaceTV-2. So that is an upgraded version of the camera system on here. Those of you that are seeing the video right now, we have a globe there. It looks like it's just passing over South Africa. There is actually a little bug right now, because remember I said there was a reboost this morning? So our globe, I'm pretty much seeing, I think that is not quite in the right place. Because if you can see, the space station is currently, oh no, maybe, yeah. Anyway, that doesn't look like it's in the right spot, which is what I'd expect, because shortly after doing a reboost, the space station isn't where the calculations say it should be. And but that's what you're seeing there. Yeah. Is there another question?
Yes, there are a couple. So Liam, as a space director, are you the one changing the views?
Occasionally, but mostly not. So the way this works is although we have direct commanding access to the payload, I can literally from my laptop here log in through a secure multi-factor portal, and then I can command the payload to do things. We decided that the most efficient way to do it was to come up with an automated system. And the way this works is when we're over land, we switch to the nadir camera, the down pointing camera. When we are over the ocean, we'll switch to the horizon view. And when we are at sunset, we'll alternate with switching to the docking cam. Those of you seeing the live feed right now, you'll see it's gone to replays. And that is because the space station, we have about 20 hours of live video downlink available through the communication satellites that NASA allows us to use. We go down through something called TDRS, which is the Transit and Data Relay Satellite System. These are geosynchronous satellites, and the space station has antennas that are tracking those. So as the space station's moving, like now, at 5 miles per second forward, oh yeah, so the space station must have spun around a little while ago. That would be cool if I can scroll back and see when that happened. I do have the timing in my email, but I just don't know what it is. So I can tell it spun around because the horizon is now going in the correct direction, forward motion. So yeah, so we're in this automated script, and that just makes it a lot simpler to do, to operate it. And but it's very clever the way this works. So our payload is attached to this shelf, and there's a data port connection that gives us power and internet essentially to the space station. And then the International Space Station program gives us lots of info, like data points on there is signal loss. And that says signal loss in 2 minutes and 44 seconds. So NASA actually knows when the pointing has to be switched between one satellite and the next. And then we get a loss of signal. And when that happens, we have to do something for a 24/7 live stream. So we automatically switch to pre-recorded replays. So yeah, in a couple of minutes, we'll go to that loss of signal. I mentioned the other thing, we're on YouTube, but if you're in the UK, the ITV, which is like, there's the BBC and there's the ITV. There's other players as well, but they were the second major national TV network in the UK. They now have a 24/7 channel with our footage. So that's another use case that we have. And that is a commercial relationship. There, we get something from that relationship. So we're not just giving it to them for free. But the bottom line, this is about inspiring people. And that's what we're getting from all of this, is that is possible. Are there any questions in the room? Or Reza, you still have a couple of questions,
Yes.
do you? Okay.
Yes, if there are no questions on the room. So can you tell us how live is this? I know that YouTube inserts like 20 seconds of a delay. So we're not, when you're watching live on YouTube, you're actually seeing 20 seconds before. So
Yes.
Are there any other delays being introduced?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two ways. When we receive the signal on the ground and we're looking at it with our systems before we're sending that out to YouTube, we have like a 1 or 2 second delay. It's very short, which is quite surprising because remember, this is a signal that's going up to a geosynchronous satellite, relayed to another one, and then downlinked to White Sands. It comes out of White Sands, goes to Huntsville, Alabama, gets split up. So that's every payload's data and signal is coming back to Huntsville, Alabama. And then our little chunk of that, which is 10 megabits from a 600 megabits downlink, essentially, is then getting shipped to Bremen in Germany to Airbus. And then Airbus ships it to us in the UK, and then we're shipping it over to ITV and YouTube. So, and all of that does add a bit of time, and it's less than NASA's. So if you look, NASA still has a live video feed. You can watch it. But by the way, the blockage has grown even bigger. It's like it's the Godzilla of blockages in the field of view. It's almost 50% of the frame is filled with a payload that's in the way. But that video, when we compare it with ours through YouTube, we are usually about 10 seconds ahead of what NASA's feed is. So we somehow have a shorter latency in the video. Great question. Thank you. And there was a question in the room somewhere oh yes, at the top right, there we go. All right, number one, can we zoom in? All the cameras we have a fixed field of view and they are immovable. So the odd thing is that our sensors are bigger than 4K. So we have an ability to sort of slightly crop and zoom. So we could essentially do some digital cropping, and sometimes we do that, but no, we can't zoom in. What we've got is essentially we chose the sensor and the lenses to be fixed to make a simpler product. NASA's cameras all zoom and pan and tilt. They're a lot more expensive to put together. So ours are sort of lower cost to build and maintain. Yeah, great question. Are there any areas that are off limits to us? We're commonly asked that question. So CEN, our UK company, is a signatory to a NOAA license. So NOAA licenses are where you get permission to do Earth observation like this. If there's any part of your signal path that has a ground station in the US, you have to get that. And that means we had to be vetted for the resolution of our cameras. For instance, we go over Area 51, and you can see, if you know where to look, the airfield that is Area 51 in the Nevada desert. But nothing that we have is capable of picking up anything of merit in sort of espionage and things like that. So there are no places off limit. And that does mean we go over war zones. And yes, we do see the evidence of war in these views. We don't make a big song and dance about it, but oftentimes if you look at the tag category fire, you might see things that in certain countries that are evidence of something hitting something on the ground, and there being smoke as a result of it. So just go looking in the clips and you may find examples of that kind of situation, which points to, I'll just bring up, Russia is on the space station. They have been a very solid partner with NASA. That was the beginnings of the space station actually now 27 years ago, even before that, because we were working together to make it happen. But on November the 2nd of the year 1998 was actually the first assembly mission of two parts of the station, the Russian side and the US side, the Unity module and the Russian Zvezda module. That was when they were put together. So yes, there is definitely an interesting conundrum with how all this works. I will say that at the space station program level, all of the Russian astronauts, the US astronauts, the other astronauts, when they're on the station, they are one family. They eat together, but they don't sleep together. I'm sure they don't do that. They have their own compartments for that. But they live together, they work together, they support one another, and they are the closest friends that anyone can have. Obviously, they're up there for usually 6 months at a time. Another question, was there a third one, or was that already 3? Oh, yeah. So that really goes. So the question was really, how do we get the signal down to the ground? And that's really going back to the TDRS satellite network, transit and data relay system. So we're somewhat protected from that. But I will tell you what I think is an interesting anecdote. So on NASA's channel, they have on their live link down to the ground for their cameras, they do feature space to ground audio. That is astronauts on the space station working with flight controllers on the ground on various things. It could be experiments. But there was one time when our payload stopped working. We stopped getting signal from it. We couldn't, but except we knew that it shouldn't have been offline. And I went through the logs and I discovered that someone jogged a cable. So this is the way it goes. So from outside the space station, there's basically a gig Ethernet cable that goes in the station. And would you believe it gets plugged into a laptop? It's called EICL, E-I-C-L. I think it's ESA's something communication laptop. Yeah, so there was a period one weekend where we lost it for the whole like 4 days because Germany has a lot of holidays and they take them. And when they have holidays, there is no support that we have. So that cable was loose apparently for the whole weekend. It eventually came back again. So the signal path is pokey laptop. They've had to replace that with a backup on the station once. So hopefully they've got a replacement for the one that they replaced. But literally, this Ethernet cable is a bit wonky at times. And then it goes from that laptop, that one is plugged into NASA's internal network on the space station, and then it just comes down through this TDRS system through a high gain antenna. It's called a KU antenna, which is tracking each of the geostationary satellites above, goes over to White Sands. It can come down via Guam. Apparently, if there's bad weather at White Sands, they can choose to have the signal go down to Guam, which is a long way away. I don't know how they get it from Guam over here. I know from White Sands to Huntsville, it's a fiber optic cable. I expect it's fiber optic as well across the ocean from Guam. So that's sort of how that works. Great questions. I really love them. Anyone else? You're all, oh yeah, what are we seeing now? Oh yes. So this is a replay of the one that went viral. If I scroll back on this. So you may have seen while we were talking, did you see city lights at all? So I think on this, sometimes you may see city lights. Cities move down through the frame just like what you're seeing here, except this was near the Falkland Islands. So there's no land here. There's no cities there. And I had to do a thing, which is, what am I seeing here? And I had to do some research. But before I did that, yeah, I did the research. I did know it wasn't something untoward. Okay.
So, Leon,
Who
we have an
knows?
on-topic question here.
Yes. Anyway. So
is there a way to adjust the ISO on the cameras to see details at night?
Yeah. So, yeah, we do see brilliant views of the Earth at night. I'm going to try and scroll back to when I can see some examples of city lights. We had a great pass over. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to our website. So if you go to send.com right now, it just so happens the sequence of passes right now are mostly night passes over cities. The rest of it is day passes over the. So this is a clip I captured this morning. And this is what cities look like. This is going over the UAE, and that is Abu Dhabi, the big one on the right. And you will then see it is that's Dubai. In fact, you may see the very famous, I think it's the Palm Jebali or something. It's the artificial island that is like a petal. It's an amazing thing, and that's on the right side. I'm not sure how good it comes out there, but that's the quality of the night views that we have. So yes, we have daytime exposures, and then we have adjusted it here for nighttime exposures. I know there are image processors here. We do image processing on board. So, and also on the ground. So on board, on the payload, it has computing power. It has, you know, various capabilities to manipulate and work with the imaging like you do on your imaging rigs, on your computers. So in fact, just to let you know that, yeah, that's finished that clip. So we do have what's called hot pixels. Hands up if you're an imager and you have to deal with hot pixels. Yeah, we have the same thing on our sensors. When we push up the exposure, we can see these hot pixels, which are the pixels in the CCD that some of them are slightly defective, or they've been hit by some radiation, and that adjusts their sensitivity. And they look like hot pixels. Well, we get rid of those on board by doing what's called a median filter, where because it's moving, basically anything that is not moving at night, we generally think is a hot pixel. It's not always the case, but in this, so we've got a very clean nighttime view. The previous view that you saw that I was talking about that went viral was when I shared a clip and I said, aliens, question mark. And I think Mashable picked up on that, and then it went viral. I had loads of people come to the YouTube channel saying, where are the aliens? And they missed out the fact that I did tell Mashable what they were. I said, these are LED fishing fleets. So LED fishing fleets they're in various areas of the world's oceans, and they have gigantic booms that have LED lights that are at a particular frequency so that they catch the kind of fish that they want. And there are hundreds of these in areas. And they sure do not look like cities. And they're in the middle of the ocean. So it's not surprising that people might think that they are actually something weird like aliens. Yeah, so earlier today, Las Vegas. Okay. Saw Las Vegas.
Liam, also, can you tell us about what happened to the high def? So they retired it and then they get it out of retirement, and now they have like 2 cameras still that they switch. Can you tell us about the NASA's cameras also?
So, and I'll bring it up actually on the YouTube feed. So I'll switch away from mine and I'll go to NASA's. Excuse the various other videos that are on here. I don't have a lot of choice for how that is. All right, so subscriptions. Let's see. So I really wanted to show you what they've got, because that's better than me sort of just describing it. Oh. Here we go. So live. So you click on NASA's live tab. There are 2 live video feeds. The high definition views was the replacement to HDev. And what this is basically, and now you'll see the blockage that's there. So, and you'll see this is their night view. See the hot pixels. It's a hot mess. You know, and all of this, it wasn't a complaint for me about how this was. These were inspiring views. It's just that when HDev was replaced, it was replaced with a single camera. So across the station, they have upwards of 30 plus high definition cameras. They have standard definition cameras too, and they're mostly on pan tilt zoom mounts. Now, when HDev was no longer available, they temporarily switched the HD feed to another camera that was fixed, but it again was pointing in a really odd direction. They then needed a Wi-Fi access point out on the starboard truss of the station, so way out from the center line. They needed a wireless access point because they were having more experiments out there. It just so happens this camera system, you know, wasn't just a camera, it was also an access point. So they had a plan to move this out to install this new camera system just as a Wi-Fi access point, and they were going to leave the lens cap on and not operate it as a video camera. That was the thing really that it came down to there. This is where NASA really took account of the popularity of HDev at that point, and they decided to take the lens cap off. But the ISS program is a big program, and there are many parts to it. The part that was responsible for the camera was not the part that was responsible for where they put spare pump modules. This thing that is flap 2. Can you see it's upside down? It says flap 2 up there, right? That's actually a spare pump module. And that team needed to find somewhere to put it, and they didn't realize it was right beneath this camera. So there was a slight blockage before this, but once this was put in, yes, it was a bit of a problem. Oh, you can see some cool things going on there down below there. So this is that single camera. So the other, so these are called EHDC. NASA loves an acronym. the external high definition camera, EHDC. They are Nikon D4s, so 12, 14-year-old technology inside a special housing. And in video mode, it's still 720p. So if I go back to the other one, so there is another live video feed, which is, I would say, one of the most interesting ones. You heard I mentioned NASA has dozens and dozens of cameras outside the station. This particular live feed is in standard definition. And they switch between a bunch of different cameras throughout the day, sometimes sticking on the same one. But this one is on the truss on the port side of the station, pointed towards the Japanese module. And right below there, this thing here is the newest spacecraft that arrived just a week before last, and that's called HTV-X1. And we got great views of that arriving as well. And our camera is on the other side of the station on the Columbus module. So that's what we've got. NASA still has them, but still lower resolution than what we've got. If I go back to the SEN feed, but go back to the SEN website. So that was the one that was showing Vegas and Argentina. Yeah, so Vegas was, if I just show you this one here again, Las Vegas. Yeah, so Vegas is very visible because of the strip. I really do like city views because they really frame the exact size of a city so much more than seeing it in the daytime. You can see the very bright strip there. If I were to zoom in, if I could, I can't on this player, you could see the sphere, which is the big thing in the center of Vegas now that shows a lot of that stuff. By the way, for someone who is here, I wanted to show something in particular. Okay, I am looking for. All right. No, it's not there. Why is that not there? I am sure I caught a great view of Tehran just the other day. Oh, while I'm here, let me show you these LED fishing fleets, just so as you get the full measure of UFOs. If you saw that, would you think that is weird? Especially if it's a bit difficult to see on this screen, not quite bright enough. But you see all of the point sources. Those are fishing fleets. Now, remember, the width of the screen here is the view of the Nadir camera is 175 miles wide by 100 miles deep. So those things are a long way from one another. I wouldn't blame anyone without other knowledge of thinking that they are seeing fleets of UFOs. I sort of like that idea. Yeah, there, you can really start seeing them now. And yeah, we had an awesome view of Tehran the other day. And I just can't see it right now. That happens. There's so much going on here. Saw some really weird things the other day that I absolutely could not figure out what was going on with it. So this is the Nadir view. That's a city coming down. In the lower left is a part of the Canada arm. This is in the darkest night, but the Canada arm was set up there to do some operations related to HTV-X1. And then this happened. I don't know if you can see that. There's a circle. There's two circles. What caused that? We traced it to the fact that there is a light which is on the Canada arm, and that was shining. It was just at the right level to shine into our lens and create lens flares. So we'd never seen that before. It was just really quite exceptional. And so what else have I got here? When Jupiter's, oh, here we go. Oh, that's Jupiter when it was spinning. I wanted to show you another one. Cairo, Athens. maybe I don't have it here. When we were spinning, the space station spins when it goes 180 degrees. It doesn't go what you think it should do, which is, all right, so to do the reboost, the SpaceX spacecraft is on the front of the station. But to do a reboost, they have to spin it around so that the reboost speeds it up. So they spin it around 180 degrees. They don't just do this and like it's back. What they do is they drop one side of the station down a little bit. And that means that higher gravity, and it induces a spin, and it almost tips itself upside down before it rights itself and gets back to level flight again. And then we captured views of that maneuver, and I was trying to see where it is, but it's not jumping out at me. So, because that was the one where we picked up, Aurora, here we go. Aurora and stars visible. So we start off in a loss of signal. But the reason I wanted to start off with this is when the station was slightly angled. The nadir camera was pointed towards the horizon. And what you're seeing here is on the left over here, if I scroll back, this is LA. So this is us. This is LA at an angle. And what we've got over here is Vegas, and over here is Phoenix. So you really get the sense of Vegas really is brighter than LA. I will give them that. You can see the strip over here, and it is massively brighter. Of course, I'm saying like that's a good thing in front of astronomers. But between here and there, there's a lot of darkness. So there's some good stuff over there, and 29 Palms is over that way, right? Somewhere over that way, and then Phoenix is over that way. But yeah, I was going to say, so it starts off, so this is mid-spin. This is about a 10-minute video. So the station is literally lifting up from the ground and pointing itself at the horizon. And that, by the way, now that is Utah. That is Salt Lake. And if I keep scrolling forward, I'm not sure you'll be able to see it in on the Zoom meeting, or even up here on the screen. But what I'm going to try and get to is the point where I clearly see, yeah, there we go. So yeah, you can't really see it up there, can you? You'd have to come down here and see it. There's a band of aurora that I can see on the horizon here. And this is the first time I've seen this on this camera sensor. So I got very excited. And this is at 25 frames per second. And, we have certain exposure limits. We don't really have something called like ISO. There probably is an equivalent to that in our camera exposure controls, but it's not something that jumps out at me as this is a particular ISO setting, because it's a custom sensor, custom lens, and the control mechanism is not quite how you'd use it in an astronomical sense. But nevertheless, what I'm looking to do is to finally see stars in these views so that I can say, yes, we have seen stars, but I expect we'll have to drop the frame rate down from 25 frames per second to 12, or even as low as 4. All of the videos that you see from the station, from astronauts, they are all time-lapse. They are typically, each frame is, and they're not real time in that case. They are half-second exposures, and then they just string them along, and then they create a video afterwards. So people can see stars on astronaut videos that are created as time-lapse. We're looking to accomplish that in real time, albeit at a lower frame rate, so that we can get a higher exposure. So I know I've been going on, and I don't know how much longer we've got. I'm happy to be here. If there's more questions, we should, yes, there we go. Okay. Well, thank you very much again. And feel free to come down here and check out. There's free stickers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liam, for a wonderful talk. Looking forward to see more views of space. And with this, I would like to thank our online audience and in-person audience. And good night, everybody.